You sit down to learn a new instrument, or maybe a new piece of software, and you make a mistake. Your chest tightens. You get a hot flash of agitation. You push away from the desk and decide you are done for the day. We tend to compare that adult struggle to how we learned as kids. From birth until about age 25, the nervous system acts like a sponge. You can sit in a classroom, listen to a teacher, and your brain physically changes to absorb that information, even in passive experiences. But as we enter adulthood, that passive absorption stops. The primary sensory areas of your brain lock down. An adult brain's main objective is to conserve energy, so it prefers to run strictly on the neural maps and routines you've already established. That sense of hitting a wall of frustration represents a highly efficient biological energy-saving mechanism working exactly as intended. The ability to physically rewire your nervous system, neuroplasticity, remains active in adulthood. It simply requires a specific, deliberate trigger to bypass the habitual lockdown of the mature brain. Intense friction and the urge to quit provide the chemical conditions necessary for growth. That discomfort triggers the specific biological markers that force the adult brain to reorganize. We can reframe how we perceive this physical agitation. That spike of frustration signals the nervous system to begin the heavy work of reconfiguring its circuitry. Take a look at this neural circuit. The exact moment you perform an action incorrectly, your brain registers a mismatch between what you intended to happen and the actual output. This is the error signal. That error immediately triggers the release of adrenaline or epinephrine into your nervous system. This chemical flood creates the physical sensation of severe agitation. Simultaneously, your brain releases a neuromodulator called acetylcholine. This acts as a spotlight, highlighting the specific neural circuits that were active right when the mistake occurred. This chemical cocktail of adrenaline and acetylcholine marks these failing connections. The brain now has a specific target for physical reorganization. To access this state, you must deliberately subject yourself to repeated testing. You manually pump these chemicals into your brain through the act of failing. Without the friction of repeated failure, the adult brain lacks the chemical justification to expend the massive energy required to reorganize its physical hardware. There is a crucial detail to this process. The actual physical rewiring of those synapses does not happen while you are actively struggling at your desk. The physical changes occur during periods of deep rest. This includes nocturnal sleep and protocols like non-sleep deep rest. While you rest, your brain subconsciously replays the correct motor sequences at high speeds. It executes physical changes on the exact synapses that were marked earlier by the acetylcholine. Adult learning requires a specific cycle. Intense, error-driven friction during your waking hours, followed by a period of profound, uninterrupted rest. The adult brain eventually reaches a goal, a successful model of the world that no longer needs to change. If you avoid the agitation of learning and settle into static routine, the brain's physical architecture begins to deteriorate. We can see the biological antidote to this decay in the religious order study, which tracked participants for decades. Researchers tracked nuns and priests into their 90s. Those who kept their brains relentlessly challenged with new tasks and social friction built dense neurological bridges. These bridges were so robust, they masked the physical symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. This resilience is traced to the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. This brain region physically grows when we embrace difficult challenges. Effort spent in the space between frustrating and achievable maintains the brain's physical architecture against neurological decay. Actively seek novelty, test yourself, make mistakes, and intentionally step into the pain of making errors. Pair this intense friction with immediate periods of deep rest to allow the hardware to reorganize. The overwhelming desire to quit indicates that your nervous system has reached the necessary state for genuine change.